Hello and welcome to another episode of Fertility Unlocked. If you're watching on video, this is our cozy Christmas episode in the Christmas living room with the Christmas bling outfit on. So anyway, I hope you are enjoying December as best as you can. If you're going through a fertility journey, I know how hard that can be. This is the second of a two-part series. Two-part series on the thyroid gland. Now, if you didn't listen last week, it's a good idea to go back and listen to that episode first. That episode was all about thyroid tests and why they are inadequate for figuring out what's going on with your thyroid gland, why the ranges are all wrong, why they're not running enough labs over there. This week is going to be all about why the standard of care, levothyroxine, a T4 only medication, is often not enough for women diagnosed with thyroid issues to be able to get and stay pregnant. So, what does that look like? Let's dig in. Typically with clients in our practice, they will come to us and they've been diagnosed with hypothyroidism and or Hashimoto's, and their doctor, a lot of times it's a reproductive endocrinologist if they've been through some fertility treatments already. Sometimes they've known about the thyroid issue since, before they were trying to get pregnant, has put them on levothyroxine, and they monitor their thyroid if they're doing their job. Some people come to us and they aren't getting any monitoring, which is a whole other problem. And they're monitoring typically TSH and T4. And what will typically happen if you are on levothyroxine is your TSH will regulate and it'll look close to optimal for a lot of women that we work with. It'll look pretty good. Your T4 will also look pretty good. And if you're only looking at those two markers, what's being told to you is, hey, your thyroid gland looks great. I know you're still having trouble getting pregnant, or you're getting pregnant and you keep miscarrying, but your thyroid's not a part of the problem. And so they come to us, and a lot of them know, because we work with a lot of really intelligent, researched women who have dug deep and are like, I don't know about this. Like, this seems off. It's got to be my thyroid, right? Like, there's got to be something going on. And there is still something going on. We run the full thyroid panel, and what happens with these women is their free T3 is not where it needs to be. Their reverse T3 is too high, and they've still got elevated antibody markers. So they've got a whole lot of issues still going on when they're on the levothyroxine, which is incredibly frustrating, especially for those women who have been through this journey for some time and are like, are you kidding me? This isn't enough. Like, I thought the thyroid medication had fixed my thyroid and my thyroid wasn't part of the problem anymore. So let's talk about the history of levothyroxine without going too deep down the rabbit hole. And you've got to understand that to understand why it's the standard of care in the United States now. So here's what happened. Before the 1970s, standard of care for thyroid gals, because I will say there are a lot more women with thyroid issues than men. Let's just say it that way. So the standard of care for these women before the 1970s was a natural desiccated thyroid glandular product. These were unregulated, and the big thing to remember here while we're telling the story is they didn't have thyroid testing available. So they were treating women based on their symptoms. They would come in and they would say, I'm really tired, I can't lose weight, I have a lot of brain fog. And they would say, oh, it sounds like it's your thyroid. Here is your NDT, your natural desiccated thyroid glandular, and they would take it, and what was happening was a lot of them were being over-medicated because those natural thyroid glandulars have both T4 and T3 in it. T3 is the active thyroid hormone that we really, really, really need to be optimal for fertility. So those were not in the same ratio of T4 and T3 as the human thyroid gland, but they had both in it, okay? And the thinking at the time, like often happens, is like, okay, natural desiccated thyroid glandular is a problem because women are going hyperthyroid, basically. Their thyroid gland's functioning too fast. It's almost like they're on speed. When they're using this glandular product, it's a problem. They're over-medicated. Now, The real problem, as we often know in a lot of issues, the real problem is not that problem. The problem is there was no testing available to make sure that you were treating women who actually needed to be treated and at the appropriate doses and changing things as needed during the course of treatment. They didn't have that testing available, okay? So at about the same time, the levothyroxine product comes to market, it gets FDA approval, and levothyroxine is a T4 only medication. And the thinking was the thyroid gland, the human thyroid gland, makes T4. Therefore, if we replace T4 in the body, the thyroid gland will be fine because we're replacing what the thyroid gland's not making, right? Well, oftentimes it doesn't work well enough for women who have thyroid issues. Well, why is that? It's T4 only. Okay, let me slow down on that. I love to jump ahead and have to catch myself sometimes. So anyway, that medication gets approval in the 70s, okay? Right around the same time that a lot of women are being over-medicated with natural desiccated thyroid glandular products. And this gets approval, it's T4 only. And they're like, this is going to be better. Let's use this. It gets FDA approval. And the standard of care for everyone in the thyroid care world, whether you're a primary care provider who doesn't know much at all about the thyroid gland, or you're an endocrinologist, or it's your specialty, becomes levothyroxine. And again, like I said, it's because the thyroid gland makes T4. So obviously if we replace T4, then people with thyroid issues will be fine, right? Well, not exactly. And here's where I was starting to jump ahead a little bit a minute ago. What happens in the body is that T4 has to be converted into free T3. Remember I said a lot in the last episode last week and earlier today that free T3 is the champion of fertility. It is what helps us get and stay pregnant. And your body has to convert that T4 into free T3 in the liver and the gut. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I get it. So why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem because the vast majority of adults in the US have some level of liver congestion, whether they know it or not. If you have ever drank alcohol, eaten excess sugar, been incredibly stressed out, had to take any medications, and you haven't done work to optimize your liver health, you've likely got some liver congestion going on. I don't need a lab to tell you that that's incredibly likely, almost 100%. And then the vast majority of American adults also have some level of GI dysfunction going on. Incredibly common that you've got some dysbiosis or a parasite or candida overgrowth or inflammation or food sensitivities in the gut that are causing problems. So you put those together and you've got issues going on in the liver and the gut. They're subclinical. They're not something your doctor is going to go, oh my gosh, you have, XYZ going on. Now, if you have fatty liver disease or IBS or IBD, then you definitely know you've got issues there. But a lot of us don't have those diagnoses. They're subclinical issues where it's not going to be diagnosed, but it's a root cause issue that is suboptimal, okay? You've got these things going on. It's going to be really, really, really hard for your body to convert that T4 into free T3 that it needs so that you can get and stay pregnant and feel good. So what does this look like for a lot of women? Well, let's fast forward a little bit on the timeline of the levothyroxine. It's the 1970s. This gets approved. It gets FDA approval. Natural desiccated thyroid hormone glandular does not. And they march forward with this as the standard of care. Everything, I'm telling you guys, everything that you find out there in the data of research that has been done since the 1970s, less some more innovative, newer, small studies that are being done by practitioners who have an interest in optimal health, are all on levothyroxine, okay? And so they also decided that T3 was dangerous. T3, remember, is in a natural desiccated thyroid glandular product, like Armour, if you're taking a prescription strength. So they decided that that was dangerous. Because remember, in the 1970s, they had a lot of women who were over-medicated, that were going hyperthyroid. It was, it acts like speed in the body. When you're hyperthyroid, you get heart palpitations, you start sweating, you lose weight quickly, which we don't want that state either, because that's dangerous. It's hard on your heart, amongst other things. So they decided it was dangerous. All of the documentation starts to show, like, this is the way to go. Here's how it works. Here's why it works. And T3 medications are dangerous. There's even some stuff out there that says T3 medications are dangerous in pregnancy. We have dug here at Fertility Functionally really deep down the rabbit hole of why this happened. And the only conclusion we can come to is that they actually didn't study it. They didn't study it because T4, levothyroxine products were getting all of the funding, okay? And when you are pregnant, T3 cannot cross the placental barrier, only T4. And so some practitioners who are not incredibly educated on this will say, oh, you can't take a T3 product when you're pregnant or you're trying to get pregnant because a baby needs T4. Okay, well, as long as you're getting enough T4, you as mama also need T3, and a lot of you won't ever be able to get to a successful pregnancy without enough T3. So that logic is incredibly flawed. It doesn't make any sense at all. But it is, I tell you this story and this history so I can set the stage for you of how we got to where we are today, how we got to you sitting in a doctor's office being told you have Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism or your thyroid, your TSH isn't optimal, and them saying, and the answer is that you're gonna take levothyroxine and we'll titrate the dose until we get it right. And then they say your thyroid looks great, it's not part of the problem, I don't know what's going on. Well, it's because their training is all around managing T4. And the assumption, which is incorrect, the assumption is that T4 will convert to T3 because that's what the thyroid gland makes, right? But so if you're on levothyroxine only, what works well for a lot of our clients is to get the right medication in place. And everyone's a little bit different. Some women do really well on a natural desiccated product like Armour. Some women do really well on adding a cytomel, like a synthetic T3, to the levothyroxine so that you're getting that T3 support directly too. And the T3 you're getting is not just your body doing that conversion process. And on top of the medication, you want to address the root causes that are causing your thyroid gland to have issues in the first place. Now, when I tell you this, the goal isn't always to have women get off of medication. Some of you have had so much damage done to your thyroid gland by autoimmunity from Hashimoto's, is typically where that comes from, that medication for life isn't something you should feel like, you want an optimized thyroid, okay? So it's not always the goal. But for a lot of people, you can do so much to get your body into a state where your thyroid gland is functioning optimally without medication. But again, I don't want to come out here and say like our goal here on the functional side is for everyone to get off thyroid meds. You will find some practitioners out there who will say that. I vehemently disagree with it because you can have a lot of damage to your thyroid gland from Hashimoto's, and the thyroid medications can be incredibly helpful for you to live a healthy life. You want optimized thyroid hormones floating through your body, and if you have to get them from medication, that's okay. Now, that said, whether you're going to need meds for a long time or not, which you don't know when you're early in this process if you're on them already, you want to work on the things biochemically and in your lifestyle that are negatively impacting your thyroid gland, okay? We've had a lot of women, by the way, decide to go off of meds, and they've gone off of them successfully. Now, what does this look like? What do you need to be thinking about when you think about optimizing your thyroid gland? Again, whether you're staying on medication or your goal eventually is to not be on meds, it doesn't matter. You need to make sure your nutrition is locked. And what does that look like? It's not easy, but it's quite simple. And this is something we work with clients on very regularly. It's not easy, but it's very simple. You've got to get enough calories, which go back and listen to last week. We talked about this a little bit. The average active, healthy woman needs about 2,500 calories a day for a healthy cycle. The average active woman needs about 2,500 calories a day for a healthy cycle. Go grab a free tracker like Chronometer and start popping your food in there for a few days and see how much you're eating. And don't let your jaw drop to the floor when you see you're only eating 1,600 or 1,700 calories a day. That is negatively impacting your thyroid's ability to function optimally. If you are skipping meals, if you are skipping breakfast, if you're fasting for long periods, or going for more than 4 or 5 hours throughout the day without food, that can negatively impact the thyroid gland. If you have micronutrient deficiencies, which we see this come from a couple of places. One, it's coming from not getting enough micronutrients in the diet. And I also see it coming from issues in the gut. So you've got imbalances going on in your gut. There's some clues, by the way, that something's going on in your gut. They look like constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, random abdominal pain, sensitive to a bunch of foods. Those are good clues that you've definitely got something going on in the gut. However, we see a lot of clients who don't have any of those symptoms. They're like, my gut's not a part of the problem. And then we get their GI map back and we're like, yeah, it actually is a part of the problem, even if you're not symptomatic. And those things going on in the gut are also going to impact your thyroid's ability to do its job. Okay, so we work with our clients on figuring out what's going on in the lifestyle and biochemically in the body that is negatively impacting their thyroid gland. They run through customized protocols depending on what we find that will help improve their thyroid gland. Now, we see a lot of everybody's different. I'll caveat this with everybody is different. We are all biochemically unique. We all come with a unique set of genetics, history, lifestyle. All of those things make it so that everybody's not exactly the same, okay? But it is not uncommon for someone to come in to work with us and have their TSH at 3.4 and their free T3 bottomed out and their reverse T3 way too high and their antibody levels at 250 or 300. And in 3 or 4 months, if they're really sticking to the protocols and the recommendations that their practitioner is giving them, they can get back into or close to optimal ranges on those. Not necessarily with medications, right? So if you're on medications already, there's probably a good reason for it. What we do in our practice is we will help you advocate for yourself with your prescribing provider locally. So we will work with you on protocols that are addressing root cause issues that are what's actually causing the autoimmunity in the first place, actually causing your thyroid to be suboptimal in the first place. We work with you on those things while helping you advocate for the best possible prescription for yourself if medication is necessary with your prescribing provider by giving you the tools, the power, the information to go in there with enough knowledge and know what's right for you based on what you have learned. So a lot of times when we're working with clients who are on a medication, or they go and we tell them, let's say like your thyroid is suboptimal and you've got, these antibody levels are elevated, which we don't do diagnoses here, but, this would be suspicious of Hashimoto's. And sometimes we have clients that are like, I want a diagnosis. I know it's not going to change what we're doing here. And there's, not a whole lot they're going to tell me over there, but I just want to know. Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to call them. You're going to ask for a thyroid ultrasound. They're going to do that. They're going to look at your levels and they're going to say, you have Hashimoto's. Or we'll say, hey, you're on levothyroxine only and your T3 is tanked out and your reverse T3 is high. Go back to your prescribing provider and talk to them about potentially adding T3 into your prescription or maybe switching to a natural desiccated thyroid glandular product. Go talk to them about that with this information about why it could be helpful for how you feel day to day and your fertility. I always talk about this. You'll hear me continually on the podcast and over on social media, if you follow me over there, talking about the fact that the work we're doing here is so that you can get your baby in your arms. But the side benefit that is going to impact every aspect of your life is you're going to feel better day to day. The work we do here to improve your thyroid gland and the other things we work on, like the gut and other parts of the body that are improving your fertility. Because look, you want to be sitting in a room like where I am right now with your baby. Now I'm going to make myself cry. with your baby in your arms by the Christmas tree. You know, you want that experience more than anything in the world. And that's why we do the work we do here. And you don't know yet, but feeling as good as you possibly can before you get pregnant with that baby, when you're pregnant with that baby, and when you have that newborn in your arms is going to make your life so much more rich, that much more rich. And that's a side benefit of the work that we do to get to the root cause, to work through the root cause issues that we find and help you get to the other side. You have the baby in your arm and you feel better than you ever realized was possible. So we will definitely continue to weave in thyroid topics in future episodes. If you have any questions, as always, please shoot us a DM on Instagram is the easiest way to do it, at Fertility Functionally, and let us know what questions you have. We'll address them on next week's episode. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy your Christmas or Hanukkah and have a great rest of your week.